The long wait of XRP holders is coming to an end. Since 20th October 2022, we've been waiting for this to come out. Back then, Brad Garlinghouse highlighted the fact that when the truth eventually comes out, the shamefulness of their behavior here will shock you. Great. And this was actually as a response to what Stuart posted. And what did he say? He actually told this, I can say that it was worth the fight to get them. Now, up to most recent thing, which is today. Wish I could go in depth now, but we waited this long. I don't want to overstep. So he's actually giving you a clear narrative that we are up for something positive. And this actually creates a hype for sure. So he actually concludes like this. I believe they were well worth that. So going back to what Stuart said back then, they are reinforcing that they still believe it is true. Now, when you actually look at all these information coming out, the Ether guys are actually selling things at the top, but not only that, they are moving it massively into exchanges, which is similar to that of what happened with Matic and others. And yeah, we do have some hype in the market. We're getting some things like this saying, okay, there's a leaked version of this, that and all, but we don't know what is the truth unless we get it directly from the official source. So when we look at the fundamental stuff here, Stuart actually gives you the idea that XRP is decentralized. SEC understand that because SEC runs a node on XRP ledger without the permission from Ripple, the company. So that kind of gives you a clear narrative. Now, why is this going to be really important? Because right now the hype in the market is so high. The macro market shows you oil. I talked about this recently, right? When I talked it on the last day, it was like $70 and right now it's 67. So oil dropping 4 to 5% a day is not normal. And that shows how the demand on the economy side is slowing down. And then you look at the dollar and it kind of gives you the narrative like, nah, I'm making a pattern here. So if it breaks to the upside, that means in general, the market should be slow. So XRP USDT should actually be slow if dollar is going higher. What is it really going to be? Because with all these hype, are we actually going to see a macro pump or a huge dump? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this crypto world. Right now, while we look at the TA, while we look at how things are evolving, it is really important to understand the macro and the micro structure, especially what XRP is doing here right now. So if you like the direction we're going, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. So now let's dive in. While you actually look at the pattern itself is actually bullish. It's not showing you a bearish signal as of now. It is clearly showing you we are still inside this particular pattern. So a drop towards 0.48, which would be another retest of what we have done recently, is still completely cool. But what is more important is looking at how things are evolving here in the oil side of things, because we do have a lot of room on the monthly to drop to the support trend line. So if you actually go back in history and look at what we have done before, this was the trend line. Literally, by the time you broke that trend line, the fluctuation to the downside was massive. So the break was 90, you reach somewhere close to $30. That is a huge drop. Right now, again, the cross was around 83, and if we follow history, that's going to be so bad in the side of economy. And now take that into the crypto side. What does that mean for these assets? Because dollar is gonna slowly go up. Now, during the times like this, people would think like, why would people buy dollar, right? Yes, you and me completely understand the fact that this is not a safe haven asset for sure, no doubt. But the market, for some reason, believe that it is, and during these uncertain times, you see them flocking into gold and dollar at the same time. So you get confused. So if dollar is going up, why the hell is gold going up, right? That kind of narrative is still in picture. That is why it is really important to look at the micro and the macro structure here for XRP, because let's keep the hype apart. We've been waiting for this from like 18 months, and if things are positive and still it's below what the market anticipated in terms of the information, now that would be a completely bad scenario. What do I mean? On the short-term narrative, it would actually shift like buy the rumor and sell the news. So going leverage somewhere close to a resistance when you have a possibility of buy the rumor, which already happened and the price actually pushed higher, and now we are nearing that sell the news event. So if that's the case, we're going to drop. And now you actually zoom in on the daily side of things, and the price action clearly shows you, yeah, it kind of went up, consolidated here. It was not able to move above this particular range. That is something important. Why? Because during the same time, you look at the RSI, it is slowing down. Now, the only thing positive about that here is that it is actually forming clearly. It is forming a trend line in the RSI. It shows you like there is a possibility that if I manage to break higher, that means when the emails come out, if that shows something positive related to Ether, related to XRP, whatever it is, and SEC will have to throw that guy under the bus. Now, for Ripple, things are great. Why? Because at that point in time, the Hinman of Ether is actually now kicked out. So now things are going on the other direction, right? So here we are on the macro, on a monthly, we are still green, we are still looking good, but we are still below the moving average. Now we actually take a step in, zoom in, and we see the 21-day moving average, which should be a key support, as it's about 1, is now way lower from where we are right now. So if we actually think like, okay, sell the news event is coming and we are going to drop, that means we still have around 15% to the downside. Now keep that in mind and go on to the Bitcoin side of things and ask like, okay, if XRP has to drop, most likely it's not going to drop alone. Most likely the entire market is going to do that, right? We actually see some of these assets which is trying to hold on. That's just short covering, most likely. People actually sold this asset, pushed the price a lot to the downside, and now they're trying to buy it back to sell and take the profits. Great. So here we are looking at the other side of things, where you actually have a ton of these assets are in red, and that's most likely the consolidation side of things. And it is actually interesting. Now, take this idea and go on saying like, okay, what if the Hinman emails prove to be worth it? Meaning there is something relevant showing XRP is not a security, or at least a confusion within the SEC where one party says this is not a security and the other one says, nah, this is. So now there is an internal conflict within SEC. So now if that's true and one of the information came out, now that means positive news, and this now becomes a bull flag and you break to the upside. Now, what are the odds for that on the technical side of things? I wouldn't actually neglect that as a scenario, because right now, if you actually look at this, it doesn't actually show you I'm actually trending down. It does show you like I'm actually ranging. So if RSI shows you a break to the upside on a 3-day candle, that is positive in itself, because this just started and you have 3 days more, and by the time the news comes out and the market digests that information, it is clearly going to be positive. Now, one of the major concern would be what Bitcoin is going to do during the same time. If Bitcoin is dropping, for sure, that's going to weigh in on XRP. And as we've been talking, if you look at the pattern, we still have some room to the downside. Close to 25,200 is going to be that support zone. And if Bitcoin breaks below, it's going to be bad. Great. But right now, the pattern has not broken to the downside. So let's actually say what we are going to do here is most likely stay inside the range, right? We may bounce. So that bounce can actually take us towards 27,000. So this is the range which we are watching right now. So unless this range breaks, let's not speculate like we are going to break to the downside, because we do have a divergence forming here on the chart, which suggests the possibility that we may actually go higher and break this trend line. So if this is the case, okay, let's make that red. It's the resistance, right? If we manage to break this to the upside, now things change. But what we have seen on the on-chain data is that Ether is getting massive selling pressure, and this kind of reinforces the factor here. So I'm reading that. So if you are actually following me here, you can get all of my perspectives, thought process, which I'm actually sharing here on the platform, right? So now jumping back, if Ether is about to drop, as we discussed before, that would be like, okay, on a weekly chart, you're now breaking through the support. What does that mean? That's a major support level. And if you are breaking, that means you are actually going to watch the market come lower. Say we watch a scenario where Ether accelerate to the downside after breaking this 21-day moving average. We cannot deny the fact that it is going to happen, right? So while we actually zoom in to understand, okay, on a weekly, we close to the downside and we are moving to the downside. So on a daily, where do we see some level of support? And the first level of support, which we actually thought the price action is going to hold before all the SEC shit came in, it was something like this. Now we broke that to the downside, showing some more weakness. Now, if we actually think like, okay, what if we follow the trend line? We are at that level. So if we break this particular level right now, which would also break the trend line here, as well as the 21-day moving average on the weekly. So for Ether, especially for Ether, that sets in a negative tone. Now, yes, this market is macro, and this is going to show you how the market does on the macro side of things. But keep in mind that some of these assets are already staying somewhere close to the resistance. Say especially XRP, even if it drops, it now has a long way to come back towards the level of support here. So anticipate it's going to drop another 20%. It still is close to 0.4, which is an attractive level if you missed to buy this asset last time. Basically, that would be like a cup and handle pattern forming or a double bottom formation coming in on a newly found support. That is going to be a strong reasoning. Now, you go look at the stock market on the other side, because it actually is important to watch how things are moving there. It's a negative pattern. The price action is right now trying to push through and break the resistance. But let me tell you this. You don't actually have that amount of strength in the market which suggests, yeah, that's a valid break, right? Usually whenever there is a heavy divergence where you see the price slowly creeping up, but the RSI suggests, nah, I'm dropping, that now shows you like, there is something wrong. So maybe that's also going to play out. Now that's on a daily structure. You can actually go on a weekly and say, now we are on the overbought territory. We may still get some more push to the upside before we come back down. That's still valid. But one of the biggest concern is whenever oil drops heavily to the downside, that shows a big correction is coming up on the stock markets. Maybe it can lag a month or two, and during that time, this can actually still go higher. So we are literally watching whether this actually plays out, because if we actually see a divergence on a weekly, let it be a short term like this or a medium term like this, when it plays out big. Now, if we make a higher high structure here, now that is going to be bullish, meaning you may actually come back down to this range and go back up, which again is going to be a positive thing for the entire market. So now you're looking like, okay, oil is collapsing. Stock market still shows you like I can still grind to the upside on a macro side of things. And on a daily, it shows you like, I'm getting some kind of weakness. What should I do? This is a level where you should actually ask yourself like, okay, if this is the range and you're close to the resistance, not the support, what should you be doing? Should you be buying at that range or should you be selling at that range? I'm not saying go short the market right now. I'm saying buying here would be risky. Once you have a dip in the market, that is going to create some opportunity. So if you are in crypto completely and you're like, okay, let me see some opportunity, I would say have some patience, let the price come back up and break 27,200 and give you a confirmation with a daily close and a retest and a bounce. That now gives you massive advantage in this market, because last time when we did this in this market, remember last time when we actually created this pattern, it was literally a run to the upside. You went up, you consolidated, you took another run to the upside. Now remember, this all came in from this level. So you consolidated, you moved up. Now, if the price decides to correct back down, it's nothing bad actually. It is going to create a lot of buying opportunity and a lot of new buyers are going to come back in. So going back to XRP before we conclude, remember, buy the rumor, sell the news is something which happens in the market very often. So don't go leverage saying, okay, this is going to be an explosive price move in XRP. It can be, but the chances for that are odd. If you actually drop below this particular flag pattern, that's say 0.48. Now we are looking for the support somewhere close to 0.44 and then 0.4. So don't go ultra leverage. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit the like and subscribe button. And if you're looking for anything like this on a lot of different assets with respect to the fundamentals, technicals, and opportunities, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.